Hey everyone, it's John from IT Skills Academy. This is the second video in a series of videos where we'll be creating the inventory stroke sales management system. In the previous video, we created the table that we are going to use to display the suppliers. We also added the form that we are going to use to insert the suppliers into the database. But before we do that, we need to have a database. And so in front of me is the tables that comprises the database, and the very first table that we're going to have here is the suppliers, and the suppliers table contains the ID, which will have a data type of int. This will also be auto increment, and it will also have the primary key. We also have the supplier name, having a Vasha data type, and supplier contact. So once we have the suppliers inserted into the database, this means that we can now be able to make some orders. So once we have the orders, it means we need to have a table to store the orders, and for that reason we have the purchase order table. So the way these are written is that we are going to have the sales orders coming from the suppliers, and once we have some purchase orders, this means that we now need to stock our store, and for that reason we need to have the store table. So this is where we are going to have all the items that we have ordered from the suppliers. So here we are going to have things like the product name, quantity, price, selling price, image, and name, and even the expiry date. I also forgot, here we also need to have the buying price as well. So once we have the store stocked, now it means that we can be able to start selling the items. So we are going to first of all have this data inserted into the sales order table. So this is where we have the transaction ID, invoice number, product name, image name, quantity, amount, price, and even the date of sale, and these sales now can be converted into sales. So the sales orders can be converted into sales, and so we need a table where we'll be storing all that. And once we also make sales orders, we can also be able to create invoices as well. So those are the only tables that we have for now, and that's how they are related. So if we need to add more tables, we'll be adding that as need be. So now let's head on to the browser and have these tables created into the database. So I'm going to head on to the browser here, and I'm already on PHP my admin, and here the first thing that I'll do is to click on new. This is because I want to create a new database. I can just call it inventory system, or inventory, just inventory. So I'll hit on create, and database inventory has been created successfully. So now that we have the database, now it's time to start coding. So this is where we'll be writing the PHP code that will help us to insert the data into the specific table. So the first table that we'll be dealing with is the suppliers table. So this is where we'll be inserting the suppliers and also now displaying them on our website, so on our system. So now in the previous video we created this add suppliers table, and we also added this script here that would help us to insert a table. So this table would be able to add several rows as we would want, so thanks to this code here. So now to be able to insert the suppliers into the database using this table that we have here. So the first thing that we are doing is to write some JavaScript code that will help us to grab the form data that has been supplied by the user. So here I can just come and comment and say collect data from the form. And so now how we are going to collect the data is by first of all targeting that specific form. Remember, we have given our form the ID insert form, so if we can just check that. So we have the form having the ID of insert form. So we want to come and target that here. So we write $, a set of quotes, and then the ID insert underscore form. And now we want to say that when the submit button on this form is clicked, we want to execute a certain function. So here we are saying on submit, and if the submit button in this form that has the ID of insert form is clicked, then we should have a function. And now down here we want to come and have what the form will do, but before then we have the parameter event inside there, and so we come and have a set of curly brackets. Before we forget that, we need to come and close that there. Now inside here we want to first of all come and prevent default, so I say event prevent default. Now after that we want to first of all come and have a variable error, and we are going to set that to equal to null. And now down that, the first thing that we want to do is to grab the supplier name. So we are writing $sign here, a set of single quotes, and the supplier name. So if you can remember, we have in our form the supplier name, and we also have that specific class here. So this is the class that we are referencing down here, or that we are calling down here. So I say each, and here I have another function, a set of curly brackets, and now within the curly brackets we want to first of all come and have a variable called count, and we are going to set that to be equal to 1. So what we are now saying here is if we have this column containing some data, we count that as 1. Now down here we want to come and check if in this column we have any given data, and so if we don't have any data, we want to echo an error, maybe to tell the user to insert information in that specific column. So we're just going to come and say if, and inside here we are going to come and have and this dot variable is equal to null, so equal empty. So if this So now within the if statement, we want to come and have the specific error. So if this if statement returns true, then we want to come and echo an error. So here we are writing plus equal a set of quotes, and we want to come and have the error in a paragraph. So we open and close the paragraph tag, and now within the paragraph we are going to come and write the error. So maybe you can just come and say enter supplier name at. We also want to come and echo the number of rows that doesn't have any data. So here we can have a set of quotes plus plus, and inside here we can just come and have the count. So remember, here we have set the count to be equal to 1. So in this case now it will tell the user that enter supplier name at row 1. So let's just go down here. So first of all we add that statement, and down here we should come and return false. And now down here we also want to come and say that count is equals count, the one that we have on top there, plus 1, or we can just come and say plus plus. So we are incrementing this count here so that we can now be able to tell the user the specific row that is empty. So now that is the code that will help to grab the supplier name. We also want to come and grab the supplier contact. So I'm just going to come and duplicate this. So I'll just come and grab this and duplicate it down here. And so now we change this to supplier contact. The same to this one, so far so good. Now we have the supplier contact and the supplier name, so we are grabbing that successfully. And now down here we want now to come and insert the data that we have collected into the database. So of course now what this block of code will be doing is to set this supplier contact and the supplier name into a PHP page that will contain some PHP script that will help in inserting the data. So in this case we'll be using Ajax. So before we correct or set the collected data into the PHP form, first of all we want to come and have a variable here and call it form underscore data, and we are setting that to equal to $sign this. And we want to first of all come and serialize this, so just come and say serialize, just like that, and then we add that statement. Now down here we want to come and have the if statement that will check if these two returned an error. So if in this we have this error, or in this we have an error, then this block of code that we are about to write here will not be executed. So we are checking if we have an error in this code above there. So we want to come and say if, and here we want to have the condition as if error is equal empty. Like if we don't have any given error on top here, then we should continue to set this data into the PHP script. So down here we are writing $.ajax and a set of brackets and a set of curly brackets. Now within these curly brackets we are now coming down here to write the URL or the address to the PHP page that will contain the PHP script that will insert the data into the database. So we are going to have this page located in the folder includes. So we have not created this, we'll be creating it in a moment. So we'll be calling it and suppliers.php. So we close that there, and the method will be post. So we are having separating these with commas, and down here we are saying that the data form data, and here we want to come and have the success. So this will be the success message that will be echoed if the data is inserted successfully into the database. So here I'm writing a function into bracket data. So let me just have the function like this. Yeah, so the function there. So this function of ours will not have a name, but we are going to give it a parameter of data. Now inside the curly bracket, so inside this function we want to come and say if data is equal a set of single quote okay. So if that is equal okay, what should happen? So if that is equal okay, the first thing that we are going to do is to remove the data in that specific form or that specific table. So we are grabbing the ID of the table here, the supplier table, because we want to come and target it here. All these should be in a set of single quotes like that. So we want to come and remove the data in this form if it has been inserted into the database. So this function will be doing that. So we are writing find a set of brackets, a set of double quotes, and we are targeting the row gt into bracket 0. And so here we are having the remove function, or the class remove, and so here we are having the class remove. So I'm saying dot remove, and we end that statement like that. So that will help us to remove the data in the form or in the table if it has been inserted successfully. So the other thing that we want to do is to come and have the success message. So this success message will be echoed somewhere in the form. So if you recall, we have this span here that has a class of error. So we want to come and have the error or the success echoed in this part of the form. So that's why we are having the ID error, and outside here we are saying HTML. And now we want to come and create a div here. So this should be within a set of quotes. So we open and close the div, and this div we are giving it, a class of alert success, and we can just come and say suppliers inserted successfully. So that will be the message that will be echoed there. So we are closing that there, and that is the success message. We are done with that. So that will happen if we don't have an error. So if this if statement returns true, it is all of these code that will be executed. Otherwise, if that is not true, down here we are writing else, and here we want to come and echo an error. So we are writing some double quote here, and then having or targeting the error. So outside here we are saying .html because we want to append some HTML code here. So within these set of brackets, we are writing some set of single quotes, and here we want to come and have a div. And so within the div, first of all, we want to give the div the class of alert danger, and for the message within that, we are going to first of all have a set of single quotes plus plus, and then here we are going to come and have the error. So this will be the error that will be echoed if we don't have anything in a given row. And that's all the code that we need to grab the data from the form. So we'll be sending this into a PHP script that will help to insert it into the database. But before we do that, we want to check if everything is working properly. So here I'm refreshing the page, and I want to come and add several rows, and then I try to hit insert, and as you can see here, we are getting the error: insert supplier name at 1, insert supplier contact at 1. So those are the errors that I was expecting if someone tries to hit the insert without having some data in a given row. So if that is working successfully now, we can head on and said that we can now come and write the PHP script that will help to insert the data into the database. And so I'm heading on to the includes, and in the includes here I'm creating a new file, and I'm just going to come and call it insert. So I'm just going to come and call it and suppliers. So as I have named it here, so here I say and underscore suppliers dot php, and so now this will be the PHP script that will help us to insert the data into the database. So to write the PHP script, here we are having a PHP tag, and here we can just come and have a comment and say script to insert data into the database. So now we are going to start the PHP script by using the if is set. So I'm saying if is set, and we are collecting this data from the form using the post method. So I'm saying post a set of square brackets, and here we are saying the supplier name. And now if that is successful, then or if that is true, then what we are doing first of all down here is to connect to the database. So I'm saying con is equals to new PDO, and so inside the set of brackets I'm having some set of double quotes, and inside that I'm saying mysql is equal to, or mysql colon, and the first thing is host, which is equals to localhost, and we also having the DB name. So the database name is inventory. If you can recall, that's the name we gave to our database. And for the user it is a root, and for the password it is empty. So we're just going to come and have a set of double quotes there. And so now this is the statement that will help us to connect to the database. And so now if we are successfully connecting to the database, we want to now come and try to insert the data into the database, and we are going to come and use a for loop. So down here I'm just going to come and say for, and the first thing here will be count. So we'll be initializing that to count, and for the condition it will be count is less than count, and for this count it is going to come and have parameters. So we are going to come and put the post method here. So post, and what we are posting here is the supplier name. So supplier underscore name, yes, and we should not forget to have semicolon at the end there, and then the increment here will be incrementing the count. So now inside the for loop we'll be now having a query that will help to insert the data into the database. So we are saying query is equal to a set of brackets insert into we are inserting this into the supplier table. So we come and say suppliers, and here we want to come and first of all have a semicolon at the end there. Then we come back here and say what we are inserting into the database. So the first thing we are inserting is the supplier underscore name, and we are also inserting the supplier underscore contact, and the values like we're inserting into these columns, and the values that we're inserting into the columns. So we say values, a set of brackets. So within the set of brackets we are writing the values. So we are starting that with a semicolon and saying supplier underscore name, and also supplier underscore contact. So now down here we want to come and prepare the data. So we are writing $sign statement is equals to con, and we are pointing that to prepare a set of brackets, and within the brackets we are going to come and have the query. Now we want to come and execute the data. So we are saying statement is equals, in fact this is pointing to, so pointer to execute, and what we are now executing now will be inside a set of brackets, and we'll be executing this in form of an array because we have selected a number of records. So here we are saying array, and now within the array, so let's close that first there. Now within the array we are having this specific data. So we are starting that with a semicolon and saying supplier underscore name, that points to post supplier name. So we are saying count, so we close that there, and we also want to have the same for the supplier contact. So I duplicate that and I change this to contact. Alright, so we have that there. So that is the statements or the array that we are executing. So now after that we are writing this block of code, result is equal to a statement that points to fetch all, and now we want to come and check if the data was inserted successfully. So we are writing an if statement here, and we are saying if is set result. So if that is set, then we down here come and echo. Yeah, and that is all the PHP script that we need to insert the data into the database. So let's try and check if this is working. So I head on to the browser here. So I refresh it, and I can now try to come and insert at least 2 rows. Here I have John Doe, and give him a number, and here we'll have a Jane Doe, and I give her a number. Then I try to hit insert. Right, so we are not getting the success message, but let's see if the data. Alright, so that is there. Sorry, so we are getting the success message, suppliers inserted successfully. So I was too fast to judge that, so we are now refreshing the database to see if the data was actually inserted into the database. The database name is inventory, so we try to open that, and we are heading to the suppliers table. Open that, and we don't have anything in the suppliers table. Seems we have a problem, although we are getting the success message. Alright, so I have noticed a problem. This one should be a supplier name and not a product name. So let's try to fix that. So I click on change, so we call it a supplier name. Save that, collect. So now we try to insert the data again, so I can refresh this. Then I insert two rows. Here we have John Doe and Jane Doe. We try to insert that. So suppliers inserted successfully. We are also removing the data once it has been inserted into the database. So now we try to refresh this. Yeah, and as you can see, now we are having the data, John Doe and the supplier contact, and Jane Doe and the contact there. So that is working successfully. So now the next thing that we want now to do is to display the suppliers on our form. So inside here, so we are writing now the PHP script that will help us to display the suppliers on this page here. So now we head on to the suppliers page. So suppliers. So the first thing that we are going to do before we start fetching the data from the database is to create the connection to the database. So in the include, we are going to come and create a new file, and I'm just going to come and call it con.php. So now within this con.php, we are going to come and have the script that will help us to connect into the database. So the first thing that we are going to come and have here is params to connect to the database. So first param will be a db host. So for the host, it will be a local host. We also have a db user, so that will be equal to root, and we also have a db pass, that is equal to null, and lastly we have a db name, and that is equal to inventory. Now down here we want now to connect to the database. So to do that, we are going to create a variable called con and set that to equal to mysqli underscore connect, and this should have the following parameters that we have on top here. So db host, comma db user, comma db pass, and finally db name. So now down here we want to come and check if the con was successful, if the connection was successful. So we are saying if con returns false. So if the variable con is not successful, then we should come and echo an error. So we can just come and say echo connection failed. So that is the connection to the database. So now with that, we can be able to go to our suppliers here and try to fetch the data from the database. So before we do that, we can first of all check if the connection was successful. So here I can just come and say con, and it is inside the includes folder. So we try and see if we have any error, and we have an error on line 12. So the first minor problem we have is with the semicolon. We didn't put a semicolon at the end of that statement, and also this one should not be echo, rather it should be die. And also this statement should be in brackets like that. So that should fix our problem. And so now after refresh, we don't have anything. That means we don't have an error. So we can try to make a deliberate error here and see if that is correct. So we are now expecting to see an error. Yes, so connection failed because the database is unknown. So now that we are successfully connecting to the database, we can now try to fetch the data from the database, or the suppliers from the database. So I'm heading on to the suppliers page, and here this is the table that we have for the suppliers. So I will first of all get rid of the T body. In fact, I just cut it, and now inside there, the first thing that you're going to have is the PHP opening and closing tags. And the first thing that you are going to need here is the database connection. So I'm just going to come and say require, and we are requiring the includes con.php. So that is the page that we are requiring, so for the connection to the database. Now after that, we can just come and have SQL variable. This one will help us to select all data from the database. So down here we create a variable called SQL that will be equal to select all from suppliers. And now down here, what we want to do is we want to create a query. I want to create a query that will fetch data from the database. So I'm creating a variable called result that will be equal to mysql. So mysql underscore query, and here we want to see if the connection was successful, and also if the SQL to fetch data from the database was successful. And now if that was successful, we want now to come and check if there are any records. So if we have any records on that table, so records in the database. And to be able to do that, we are using the if statement, and so we are saying if, and the condition will be if result is equal true. So if that is equal true, or if it returns true, the first thing that we want to do is to count, and we want to come and count the number of rows. So we are just going to come and say mysqli underscore num underscore rows, and we are having that with the parameter res or results. And now down there we now want to come and check if the count is greater than 0. So we are saying if variable count is greater than 0. So if it is greater than 0, we want now to come and use the fetch a sock to fetch the data from the database. So we're just going to come and use the while loop here. And so here we are having the first variable here as low. So as long as the number of rows is equal to mysqli underscore fetch underscore sock. So this will help us to correct all the or fetch all the data that we have in this table. So this being a while loop, so we are now setting that with a parameter of res or results, and this should be equal to. So if we are getting that, then we want to come and install the data in some variables. So the first one that we are setting or installing is the supplier name. So so we should now have this with the data that we have from the database. So that is the supplier name. So the supplier name that we have from the database is coming from or is stored here. So we will now want to come and install it in this specific variable here. Yes, so we are specifically saying that whatever we have in this rows, that is supplier name, or this column, store it in this variable. So we should also do the same with the supplier contact. So this one should be contact. So whatever we have in the row or column contact, supplier contact, we should store it in this specific variable here. So now after that, we can now come and have our T-body. So I can just come and first of all close the PHP and open it immediately here. So we want to come in and have some PHP, or rather have some HTML code. So to be able to have some HTML code within PHP, this is what we do. So I can now just come and have the T-body, or the body of our table. And now here we can now replace this with the real data from the database. So here we just come and say echo, and we are echoing the supplier underscore name, close that. And we also replace this with the real contact from the database. So we are saying PHP echo, and we are echoing the supplier contact. So as simple as that. So if we now come and try to refresh that, so I just try to go to the suppliers, we seem to have an error. If you see that, that tells us that we have a problem somewhere. Alright, so here I have a typo. This should be fetch, and so let's try to see if that fixes the problem. Yeah, and that fixes our problem. So we have the data collected here, and maybe we can also come and try to fix this so that they are numbered progressively 1, 2, 3. So what I can do is just below here I can just come and have a variable. I'll call it as n and set it to be equal to 1. And now what I can now do here is I can just come and say PHP opening and closing tags. So PHP, and I can just come and echo SN, and I just increment it by 1. So I close that. So now if we refresh that, we should have 1, 2, and then they will be numbered progressively. So now we are able to collect the data from the database successfully. And now in our next video we'll be trying to edit and delete the suppliers. So let me just try to add a delete button there. So just come and paste that there, and this should be a danger, and now this one should be, yeah, so like that. I also want to make sure that when we click on add suppliers we are taken to that page. Right now it is not working, so let me just help try to fix that. So so this one should not be a button, rather it should be a link. So we can just come and say a, and that should be a button. Okay, so just have a, and we're just going to come and tell it to go to _suppliers, and we'll give it a class of equal to btn success, and we can now just come and have this one there. So remove that and have it here, and now I can get rid of this. Yeah, so let me confirm the name of this page. We are calling it and suppliers, so that is correct. So we should have it with .php. So if I refresh that, we have that, and so when I click on that it should take me to and suppliers. Yes, so that is working successfully. Now we can be able to get to the suppliers and also be able to earn the suppliers. Alright, so that's it for this video. I've noticed it is getting quite long, so let's try to delete and edit the suppliers in our next video. Hope you're enjoying this. If you're enjoying this, kindly like the video, subscribe to my channel so that you can get these and more videos. If you have any systems that you may want us to create, kindly use the comment section below.